It's better to start raw and unpolished, don't you think? Okay, I'm not gonna judge myself for this because that's what I do. Procrastination nation. Procrastination nation. Analysis of paralysis. Perfectionism. Survival. Where do you think these things come from? Trauma responses. And why do these trauma responses exist? History. And if you look at history, it has not been pleasant for a majority of people. And in order to survive, conformity to a certain norm has been the thing. And if you look at what we've been doing here in the States and elsewhere, we're stretching out of conformity. We're allowing our nervous systems to become greater and have greater capacities for that which we do not yet understand. But we are integrating it. So, welcome to Mystery Mastery Martes. That's right, baby. It's the epigenetic talk again, because here we are reprogramming our epigenetics. Hi. My name is April Williams. I'm an author of the ebook. It's not an actual physical book, but I got a physical copy. If you want one, they are on Amazon. But if you're going to go to the link, you're going to get a direct copy of the book as it currently stands. It is a living ebook. It is growing and changing as more information comes in. More women talk about the process, their experiences, and what we're doing. Also, this is going to grow into a community, men, children, parenting, what it's like to be at all these different stages, and how we can begin rebuilding our communities, our families, and especially ourselves. So as the anchor for this new generation, this family and love, I just want to say thank you for watching this, and until we meet again. For those of you watching the extended version, thank you. Tried to make short clips. Now it's getting really loud and rainy, so I don't know how loud I'm going to be. It's probably cathartic, actually. Very resting, very healing to hear the rain pour in, based on us being bodies of water and coming together. And what you hear is water molecules that came together. If you watch any of my other videos, we go deeper into the whole physics and, well, not so much physics, more quantum, metaphysical, and spiritual overlapping, and basic biology, biochemistry, stuff like that. Total thinks a lot here. It's nice to be a little wild sometimes. I'm not gonna. I think it's interesting. They look like waves, which was what I was going to talk to you about. Waves. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, let's see if I got this. I need to scoop my petite. Okay, so let's see if you can see this picture. I'm not the best artist, okay? I'm not going to judge myself. Yes, I am. I already did, right? In the moment, the millisecond it took. But anyway, here it goes. Okay, so roughly, I go about this deeper in other videos. But this is not the basics of epigenetics. This is the basics of understanding homeostasis and the nervous system and expanding capacity in the nervous system. So today we're here to talk about homeostasis and expanding the capacity in the nervous system to create a better living for yourself and all of those around you, therefore all of us, because we're all on the same planet together. So if any of us suffers, we all suffer, and if any of us are doing good, we're all doing good. So the whole aspect, and there's a broader understanding in terms of bodies of water and things that we can get into at a later time. But like attracts like, and we're shifting this paradigm. We need to know that we're safe. We need to know that we have food to eat. We need to know these things in order for us to have clarity and be able to function. If you've ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and maybe I should just have a general talk about that, even though the foundation of the system itself is inherently woven with traumas and things pushed upon other generations that we are still healing from. It's our opportunity and our responsibility to take reign of what's happening here on Earth. There's enough of us now that just spreading this conscious knowledge and this will shift the entire world for the better. So learn this basic stuff about your mechanics, about your emotions, about your connection with the divine and your divinity here on Earth, and shift it so that the rest of us can actually live in a space. So for me to even have this conversation, I had to go through a lot of inner blah blah blahs in order to get here, to feel confident enough and safe enough and secure enough to share this with you. Why? Because I know that we all get to know this so that we can let go of the past and rebuild, because the foundations are faulty, the foundations are broken, the psychology is just all kinds of fucked up for us to be in the spaces that we are right now. So we get to heal it, and this is some information that you get to know. And if you are in these fields and you understand these concepts, go ahead, let's continue this conversation. If you're not in this field, you know, you can offer conjecture whatever you want, but that doesn't mean that it's valid, right? You might be wounded by some of these things that I'm saying, but it's your responsibility to shift it. Just like it's my responsibility to shift it and gift it to you. If you want to work with me one-on-one, I'm going to be offering coaching packages and courses soon enough. I've designed enough, but for people to really get this and to live in this and to shift in this, they get to expand what they know as normal and safe and comfortable and expand that into, we can grow in certain levels of uncomfort, but we can also fall and die in others that are uncomfortable. So we need to collectively say, this is the threshold that any human has to experience. There needs to be no more of these toxic, traumatic things that are passing traumas into the future. Like, whew, I don't even want to get into it because it gets deep. It gets real deep and it gets real touchy and triggering. And so we're not going to go there yet. But what we are going to do is teach the basics. Okay. So your body, as any cell, seeks homeostasis. Homeostasis keeps it alive. So if you're in too salty of water, you start to feel really thirsty and dry because your cells are now wanting to become homeostasis with that space. When you have a high amount of stress. Okay, so this is a cell. This is a single cell. A cell. Okay, this is one cell. Inside the cell is a nucleus. And inside this is a nucleolus. You can see parts are tight in the DNA and parts are loose in the DNA. This is a bigger picture of that. In the tight parts, that means that that's not often being transcribed or translated into proteins by your RNA, okay? Your DNA carries the information. It carries the information for all of you and all that has been given to you through your generations, all right? What is being actively processed or is more actively processed is something in a space called euchromatin. Euchromatin is being translated and transcribed into proteins and cells that is encouraging it to make more proteins, more hormones. However, it needs to survive for the system. And each cell in your body has all of the DNA for all of the body and the ancestors, okay? And all of life that came before it. It has been chopped and put in pieces so it's usable for the system to know it's a human being and create fingernails and hair and eye and nose and mouth and all that stuff, okay? Things like if you're darker, you produce more melanin. So these parts of the DNA within the cell, the skin cells, and all the cells actually, produce melanin, right? Let's say it needs to be an I cell. It says produce, become an I cell, but also produce this and this and this and this. Okay, so the same thing happens all throughout your body. Now, based on your stress levels, if your stress goes up, you have to produce more proteins and hormones and all of the things to adjust to that stress, right? That stress says, okay, cortisol up, and then they get a belly, because they've been under stress for so long. But it's one of the ways to hold it. They get insomnia. There's all kinds of things that happen with the physiological system under stress, okay? But the stress, if it's for if the time is high when the stress is up, let's say the time is high, and the stress is up for a long time, homeostasis changes for the system, okay? So when you have more stress, it changes the cell. When you have more stress for a greater period of time, it changes the entire system for an extended time, and then it sets in the nervous system. And the nervous system is like the brain and the spine and wrinkle. Okay, so there's new levels of stress for there's new levels of homeostasis, okay? Now, if you think about what's happening in the world right now, we can actively see the history of what's happening in a land that is this is not war if both sides don't have armies, okay? So what's happening is there's people that are undergoing high levels of stress, just like we've been undergoing high levels of stress. The more racism, sexism, molestation, rape, all these different things that people are carrying in their bodies, it changes how their nervous system works and the capacity and threshold. Nervous system capacity. So the nervous system capacity for stress goes up. But that means that these parts that say produce oxytocin, produce pitocin, all these wonderful hormones that help us relax and feel loving feelings and that goes down in the nervous system, right? So they lose the capacity for joy. Just like a lot of people who've undergone trauma, their nervous system, because it's still in shock and hasn't allowed it to give it time to heal. Heal is relative, right? Because it hits like waves, okay? So when you're going on a healing journey, you get hit with these processes, but it's the same thing like mourning, because it's the death of an old self becoming a new self, and that's a whole physiological, or a whole spiritual and metaphysical and physical process that we work on in the course. But right now we're just working, and I'm going to throw out my info in the future, right? And we basically want to understand the relationship of the homeostasis and the nervous system. So when you undergo a lot of stress, your homeostasis level for survival shifts to this very agitated, energetic, quick to be triggered part of your system, right? That's why you see animals shake and all of these things. Animals, you see these poor children shaking, right? Their nervous system has been recalibrated to a level of shock and horrors that the majority of us hopefully have never seen. But if we haven't seen it, some of our ancestors have seen it, right? Some of our ancestors have seen rape and murder and gone through different experiences of rape and people trying to kill them and all kinds of stuff like that, and they've survived, and we've taken that on. So if your nervous system is at a threshold, if you feel highly empathetic and you feel somewhat out of control with that, most likely you've had an ancestor that had that experience, and it's more direct than you think, because for a long time people weren't allowed to speak about their experiences. They were told to hush up about dark things, but the reality of it is knowing that they exist and knowing how to spot them shifts it for all of us, right? So one of the things I advocate for, especially for women, if you've gone through any type of sexual trauma, or any type of, or even if you haven't gone through trauma but you want to reconnect with the womb space and you want to get connected to yourself, going into yoni steaming. And my yoni steam looks something like this. I'd show you, but you're sitting on it watching me film this video. Okay. So the steam from the yoni pot, you sit down, you cover yourself with, let's say, a robe or a sarong or something soft and flowy. You're allowed to feel safe where you are, right? Which, when you feel safe, you're allowed, your nervous system relaxes. You can open up. You can release the certain levels of stress and increase your capacity for acceptance, for peace, for comfort, for safety, for being nourished. All of these wonderful things. As you increase your capacity for pleasure, for joy, you're allowed then to attract and receive more of it. When your nervous system is at a state of fight or flight, you act erratically and create that vibration around you. And unless you can surround yourself and project peace and relaxation and connectivity, then you are therefore really controlled by your environment versus and shifting your nervous system's capacity, because what you look for, you find. How you are, you attract. So when you're calm and you're comfortable and you're relaxed and you're in this state of joy, your cells start to produce more proteins and hormone cascades and healthier cells. Because when your cell is given all it needs for nourishment, all it needs to produce, and all the toxins are taken out, like the extra stress hormones and the different things that cause it to react in a way of survival instead of thriving and growing, you're shifting your system, you're shifting your body of water, you're shifting your level of joy and comfort in your capacity. So even, sometimes, and for those who've gone through severe trauma, understand that when you envision things you want, sometimes you fight it, right? There are people who are still repeating patterns of toxicity and patterns in relationships that hurt them because they don't want to look at and don't feel and nor fully integrate what lessons were learned, what things will allow their brain to allow their nervous system to be comfortable again, to actually attract the type of person they want to connect with. Or they won't let themselves forgive to become the better parent they want to be. Or maybe they won't, they're stuck in a delusion that everything is out to get them when it's not true. The world is. And there's no judgment, but there is. Because your enjoyment, your capacity for safety, your space, it does determine how you interact with the world, how you see the world, what goes on in the world around you, and how to shift and steer out of toxic situations. Now, there's certain things that can be done and there's certain things that can't be done. And you can put yourself in a safe environment if you're of age and all these things, right? You can speak up when you see things are unsafe or unfair. You can make the decision to shop at local businesses or work with people that are for the causes you're for. So being conscious and slowing down, the reason they put you in this whole state, everybody says, go to nature, go to nature, go to nature. Do you know why? Because your nervous system automatically calms and feels safe in nature unless you've been in the state of nature that actually attacked and harmed you, right? Or an ancestor went through this experience. So what you need to do is find out what feels safe for you, what feels comfortable for you. What's the environment that you would thrive the most in? And then start from there. We all have things that we're avoiding looking at. What if we were the bad guy? What if we were the perpetrator? You know, there's so many, like, racism didn't start out of nowhere. Slavery didn't come from nowhere. What if you were a family of slave owner? What if you are the family of people that ran some, school with indigenous children that harmed people? You have any broken parts too, and the lessons to learn, and the patience to keep forgiving, because other people can feel that in you. Other people will have that strife with you. Other people will push it down and pretend it doesn't exist. There's lots of coping mechanisms that we've all worked in and for survival. But it's time we start to reprogram selectively. And studies are showing that through mindfulness, meditation, being in joy, you actually can shift how your system produces, what produces, and how it flows, and how self-healing and self-cleansing can work in the body. So instead of acting out of fear and rash action, sit still. Let yourself be comfortable where you are. And send that energy to those around you. Send that around yourself. Create a show of peace and abundance. Magnetize. So here we're getting into the metaphysical portion of our homeostasis talk. But once you can get yourself into these ideas and concepts of places that you haven't been, that you've yet to experience, you give your nervous system the opportunity to receive it and accept it instead of pushing it away. And often I see people who repeat patterns or call in this darker vibration